All right, buddy boy, let's talk about your Detroit Lions. Your favorite football team.
No, they're not. I like them, though.
They're a real football team now.
That's what everybody's saying. That's what everybody's saying.
Yep.
I mean.
Well, it is. I mean, the organization is run the correct way, finally.
Well, I still think, because you know as well as I do, you know it better than I do, winning hides a multitude of sins in sports.
That is correct.
So a lot of organizations that win are just as dysfunctional as the organizations that lose, but because they have the players that can get it done on the field or court, we don't get to see the dysfunction.
Yeah, that's right.
As soon as there's a chink in the armor, though, we're like, what's going on in their front office?
Right.
No, it's been there. It's just hidden because they're good right now.
You know who I've heard has a bad front office?
Mm-hmm.
And this was during the good time, the Red Wings.
See?
But because they were winning, it didn't matter.
Exactly.
And there was dysfunction on the bad boys. I remember Chuck Daly now and then would get pissed at Bill Laimbeer for taking too many threes. So they're playing at San Antonio, down 3, and Chuck designs a play for Laimbeer to shoot a 3 to tie it. It's in overtime. Laimbeer, the play worked perfectly. Laimbeer had an open 3. He passes to Dennis Rodman, of all people. And so we asked him after the game, hey, Lamb, why'd you pass up that 3? He said, I heard I was shooting too many threes.
You got to have
But it all was swept under the rug because they were winning.
Right.
They lost that game, but they were winning.
Because trust me, if the Lions struggle out of the gate,
Which they can't do.
which, we all say they can't struggle out the gate. If they struggle out of the gate, people are going to be up in arms. Oh, we should have drafted a quarterback. We knew Goff wasn't going to be this guy. There's going to be all types of stuff thrown out there.
No, let me tell you, this is the most important September in Lions history.
Bro, because you put a lot of pressure on them.
If they get off to a slow start, man, this town's going to go crazy.
Right.
And by the way, I don't know what Dan Campbell's doing in September. They're 1-7 in September.
Oof.
So they got to correct that. They got to be 3-1.
Hey.
2-2 might not get it. They got to be 3-1 in September.
What is their
to keep this town off their ass?
Flannel, what is their schedule looking like?
Well, that's the question. Their home schedule looks pretty favorable. They got some tough road games. I think it kind of depends on how it plays out. If you have 2 of their first tough road games in September, you might be able to excuse a 2-2 start. But if it's 1-3, if they start 0-2, there's going to be a lot of same old Lions chattering. But I don't think it's going to happen, though. I have a lot of faith in this team, but Terry, you're a long-suffering Detroit media person who's seen a lot of things, so I get it. So they got to start strong.
I was at games at Tiger Stadium where fans would throw snowballs at Lion players as they walked off the field. And I've seen all kinds of stuff.
Dude, I was at a Lions game. I took my daughter they played the Steelers. And Steelers won at the end. And one of the fans, man, I felt so bad for him. He was crying. He's yelling at the refs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're cheating. You're cheating. I mean, he was going off for 10 minutes. I was like, this is bad. Like, these people are suffering.
No, they are suffering. But then when something good happens, there was a game against Washington, and the Lions lost their first 6 games. They finally won. This dude does a dive into one of the fountains downtown. He was so happy.
Yo, that's nuts. So just imagine. I mean,
I'm like, okay, they're 1-6. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. Does this really matter? You're 1-6. You just drenched yourself, and it's cold out. It made no sense to me.
Well, they'll take wins anywhere they can get them. But I mean, everything is. We got to admit, everything is trending the right way for the Lions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody's happy about the past draft picks, and people will be happy about, regardless to who they pick this draft, they'll trust in the front office.
Right.
So
we should have little coins in Brad we trust.
Because that's the theme right now. Inbred we trust. So, if things go the right way, man, and they start off good, and the town will be on fire. But if something happens and they start off struggling, I want to hear what everybody has to say then. I want to see if everybody's going to be true to form and say, hey, we're going to be all right. We're going to get through this rough patch. We're going to make the playoffs.
Now, this town would be on fire with anger. And we're going to hear same old lines again. This is what they do. So I'm praying that they don't start 0-4 or something stupid like that.
But even the national media is picking the Lions to be successful now.
Right.
I've never heard the national media pick the Lions to do anything good.
Because they knew better. They knew this was a bad organization, so they could. There would be some outliners one time. There was a dude that wrote for the Chicago Sun-Times like 25 years ago. He said, I got a surprise for you. The Lions are going to win the Super Bowl this year.
What? Who was that?
His name was Dan. I forget his last. It was Dan something. He's in Arizona now. They won 6 games that year.
Well, I don't know about Super Bowl, but I think they'll make the playoffs. I really do.
Okay. So who needs a bigger season? I think this is pretty obvious. Jameson Williams or Aiden Hutchinson?
I'm going to say Aiden.
Yeah, because he's an every down player.
Right.
In order for the Lions to win, they're going to have to put pressure on the opposing quarterbacks.
Yes.
And Aiden Hutchinson has to be that guy. Now, Jameson Williams, not saying he doesn't have to have big plays, but it's not going to impact the game as much as Aiden Hutchinson. So Aiden Hutchinson has to be that guy. Because, one, he's going to be starting from the get.
Right.
You're depending on him to put pressure on that quarterback. And so if Aiden Hutchinson does not have a good year, the Lions are going to struggle. If Jameson Williams does not have a good year, they can still
be okay.
make the playoffs.
Right.
Even without him. But
I think we saw the impact of having guys to put pressure on the quarterback when my guy went down from Buffalo. They were non-existent after that. They solely depended on their quarterback to try to get them through it. You gotta have a defensive line that can put pressure in, and it's best if you can just have that front four put pressure without bringing linebackers and having blitzes. But normally that's tough to do unless you got some special guys up there.
Right. Now, with that said, the Lions are putting some pressure on Jameson Williams. That's why they got rid of Shark. What they're betting on is that Jameson Williams is going to be that stretch guy. Mm-hmm. They don't need Shark. Shark wanted $8 million a year, and they didn't want to pay him that. So now they're saying this rookie can do the same thing, and for a lot less.
Right.
And so I think Neil Rule is running the Lions now.
Neil is happy about that. So
yeah, he's Mr. Salary Cap. He doesn't want to spend any money on anything
except college players
and Disney.
Right. He'll buy some college players now. Hey, I don't care. Pay them.
Yep.
Come on, Neil. But and then that'll tell the draft. I think will kind of tell us what they're thinking, like which direction they go with these draft picks. That'll tell us kind of what they're thinking. If they go defense, then we know they feel like they got to.
Now, are you on the quarterback bandwagon or no quarterback?
I think if you take one late, I'm good with that. A developmental guy, a guy that can possibly develop, but I wouldn't take one early. I wouldn't take a quarterback.
I would either take one early or not take one at all, because they need the quarterback of the future on this roster at some point.
Right, at some point.
Not saying it has to be this year, but I mean, you're gonna bring in another Nate Sudfeld. What's the point?
But here's my thing though, Terry.
Or another John Kitna. What's the point?
But here's the thing: the only quarterbacks that I mean, and maybe one of those young, lower level guys will be good. We never know. But the guys I think that we know are NFL quarterbacks are going to be gone. So you take
not necessarily. because all these mock drafts are crazy, but
Right.
I've seen some where 5 of the first 6 picks are going to be a quarterback.
Right.
Then I've seen some. There's the 2 defensive players, Will Anderson and Jalen Carter, are going to be in there. That there
Right.
will be a quarterback for the Lions. A guy like Anthony Richardson. Not a big fan of his, but that's the guy that you could take if you're going to do that, because with him, you can bring him in here, shelve him for 2 years and see if you can develop him into a quarterback.
Which is a good idea. That's what Kansas City did. Kansas City didn't,
Right.
put Mahomes in right away. Did he sit 2 years?
Yes.
He sat 2 years and
Alex Smith.
behind Alex Smith and got better. So and that guy's a unique talent, man. But you know how it is. We watch him throw footballs with no pressure, and they look great. And oh man, he just flick of the wrist and it goes 60 yards. Yeah, but how is that flick of the wrist when a defensive lineman is bearing down on him? Is that flick of the wrist accurate then?
Not necessarily.
Right.
But the other problem, if you bring in a quarterback who can play, is this town is batshit. It'd be 2 weeks before they said, get Jared Goff out of here, because this town always wants the backup to be the starter.
Yeah, but if you draft that Richardson kid, he's not ready to be, as far as I've seen, he's not ready to be a starter, and
But you know what? I go back to Andre Ware. Andre Ware was never ready to be a starter, but this town was calling for him to be the starter. That's my point. It doesn't matter how bad you are. If they don't see you, you got to be better than the starter, because the starter never plays up to the high expectations of this town. So I want to see the backup.
But Terry, if you take a quarterback that high, that's what you're gonna people. Quarterbacks don't have like time anymore.
Right.
It used to be you draft a quarterback and he sat. That was the expectation. Now it's no. We draft you and you play.
Right.
And you produce. Or after the second year we're like, he can't play.
Right. Now I would not do it, but if I'm going to draft a quarterback, it's either with the 6th pick or I'm not picking one at all. I don't want to bring in some scrub who's going to sit here and we're going to talk about developing him, and then he turns out to be garbage.
Well, but you may, if you take one late and take a flyer and you trust your scouts, you may get a Brock Purdy.
You could, but that's 1 in a million. 1 in a million.